here in Salon 1. Coach Williams in North Carolina in the room with us now. We've got questions that will come from the room. Our first coach will come left side, very back, Bob Holliday seated.
Bob, before you ask a question, in Phoenix we had heat. I wasn't freezing my rear end off. We had dessert at lunch, and we didn't have any today, and we had candy outside. Every year I've been here and had no candy, so go ahead.
It's tough to follow, Coach. Over the last few years, your centers have given you scoring, defense, passing at times, and most of all, offensive and defensive rebounding. As you look at the young guys who will take up that position now, which areas do you feel most positive about, and which are you most concerned about?
Well, Bob, I think that's really a description of the way I like to play, and right now it's the biggest worry I have. Are the big guys going to get a rebound? Are they going to be able to make a pass without turning it over? Are they going to be able to score a basket? So we've gone this year probably more so than any team since about 1993 at Kansas. That team had Donis Jordan and Rex Walters, our two leading scorers. But we still had Greg Ostertag up front and Richard Scott and a few guys like that. But we might be more perimeter oriented, but we still have to get the basketball inside. You have to. The way I believe the easiest way to be successful is to get more rebounds than you get. You get the ball, I get the ball, you get the ball, I get the ball. So the only way for to change that if I get some offensive rebounds and don't allow you to get any. And so I think that's the most important factor in the game. And we've got to figure out a way to get some rebounds. And the other thing, I believe in getting the ball inside so you get fouled. At the end of the game, maybe I'll be playing against a group that's not your 5 best players because you've been in foul trouble. And so those things that I believed in so much, I still believe in, but we might have to change a little bit of it.
Coach, up the aisle, third row left.
Okay.
Coach Williams, one of the guys you talk about that you kept from JVs to rebound was Aaron Rollman. Mm-hmm. He's now a senior. What does he bring to your program?
Tremendous enthusiasm in practice every day, tremendously intelligent young man who's fun to be around. Has been a great addition to our team, and he's pushing the young guys. He pushed Tony, he pushed Kennedy, he pushed Isaiah, and he's doing it even more effectively with the young guys.
Coach, right here to your right, first row.
Okay.
Hey, Coach Jeff Jones, CBS North Carolina. Many of us have seen the report online, but to hear it from you, how did Joel hurt his hand, and what was your reaction when you first heard that it was, in fact, broken?
This was a question I was asked, what are you going to say? I said, I'm going to say he was silly for a little while. He's playing video games with Theo and one of our managers, and he lost, and he got up and punched the door. I mean, you know, my trainer called me on Sunday as I was driving up here to Charlotte, in fact, to see my third grandson, who's 25 days old today, and get a call from the trainer. He tells me what happened. I said, you have got to be kidding me. Got off the phone with him, got on the phone with Joel, and Joel tells me, he said, yeah, Coach, it was just silly. He said, I remember you telling me about somebody that hit the backboard support and broke their hand and couldn't play in the tournament. And I said, yeah. It was really effective. It made you change what you were doing. So he remembered it, but it didn't change this. But you got to remember that Joel Berry played in the NCAA Final Four last year with 2 really bad ankles. Swollen, didn't feel good, discolored, couldn't play his regular game, and yet he was extremely successful because he's such a tough kid, and winning is extremely important to him. And he made a mistake here because winning is very important to him, and he's so competitive and so silly. And his greatest characteristic is that drive to win, and sometimes you've got to peel it back a little bit.
Coach, to your left, second row.
I see left first row, but I don't see left second row. This is left.
Left. That's that left. That's second row. Mark.
See, they didn't know it themselves. Hey, Mark.
Hey. Mark Armstrong with ABC 11. A two-parter. I suspect I know the answer to the first question. What game was Joel playing? Do you know?
No, but I don't know any of the games. I don't ever play those games, so I got no idea.
And then Theo said Joel...
I did throw a ping pong paddle through a window one time after losing a ping pong game, so what can I say to Joel?
Theo said that Joel is definitely kind of the pit bull of the team, but he said Kenny Williams is maybe second in line, and that moderately surprised me, I guess. What about Kenny fills that role while Joel is maybe out?
Well, you know, Joel, I think, takes it to another level. I really think. I told our team, I said, Joel is one of our leaders. He's one of our best leaders, but do not expect him to put his arm around you and put your hands together and sing Kumbaya. That's not going to happen. If you want somebody to bless you out for screwing it up, that's Joel. But Luke and Kenny, Theo, all those guys have some leadership traits. But Kenny does push the guys. There's no question about that, and he pushes himself. And I still think there's a pretty big gap between him and Joel, though.
Stay on the left side, Coach, there in the front row.
Okay.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Coach, Cameron Johnson coming over from Pitt. Just what you can say he can do for this team right away and why he was a good guy to bring in.
Last year I think he shot 42% from three-point line. We had nobody on our team that did that. So the ability to shoot the ball, the ability at 6'8" to go get a rebound, the ability to be a tough matchup for somebody else. And a guy who came in this summer and has worked extremely hard. Everybody loves him. He's worked extremely hard in practice, and I expect that he's going to be a very good player for us. And, I was trying to think. I think I had Justin Knox as a fifth-year transfer, and Cam, I think, is only the second one. And they contacted us first. And he's the kind of young man that everybody would enjoy coaching, and I'm hopeful that he'll be able to be really successful for us this year.
Coach, to your right, leaning up against the wall.
Pete Iacobelli, Associated Press. Roy, what are the challenges of coaching a team following a national championship?
The challenge is, first of all, you really enjoyed your off season a heck of a lot more than you did the year before when you lost on the last second play. And let me make sure one thing, too. I mean, even if Chris Jenkins' shot didn't go in, we was going to overtime. And I'm not saying we were going to win, but they made a great play. It was a harder summer last year than it was this summer. There's no question about that. Last year I was able to use the feeling that they had in the locker room of pain, agony, all those kind of things, to use that as fuel, use that as motivation to work extremely hard in the offseason. This year I just try to appeal to their pride. Let's be the best we can possibly be. Work as hard as you possibly can. Let's try to do something that hasn't been done a lot. Let's see if we can go back to Final Four for a third straight year. Let's see if we can do all those good things. But probably more this summer was about the internal individual motivation than it was about the team.
Coach, here from the podium, along those lines, in sport you hear defending champions. Do you buy into the fact that this squad, which is somewhat new, are defending, and is there an obligation to defend?
I'll answer that the same way they said redemption. I didn't see it as redemption because Marcus Page, Bryce Johnson, Joel James weren't there, so Marcus doesn't feel, he feels better because we won, but it doesn't erase the pain of what he felt the year before. We're not defending because it's not the same team playing against the same teams, but we're the only team that can go out and say we could do this a second year in a row.
To your right, very back row seated.
Roy, Alan Saunders, Pittsburgh Sports Now. When you're talking about Cameron Johnson, and obviously there was a question of whether he was going to be able to be eligible right away, would you prefer that there was some sort of clarity in that process, that it's not up to the team and it's black and white one way or the other?
I've never been involved in making NCAA rules. I don't think there's any rule that's perfect because it depends on which side of the draw you're on. I think that there would probably be better if we had more clarity. The fifth-year rule, we had that with Justin Knox, and we benefited. Well, this one, Cam was only in school for 3 years. He graduated in 3 years, so he did a great job in the classroom. But transferring itself is a problem. We have so many transfers, and people 5 or 6 years ago blamed coaches. Now they realize the player's going to transfer. The coaches don't really have a heck of a lot to do about it. You got the people outside. You got your own family. They're always talking to you about other things. But there does need to be some clarity in those rules, particularly that one itself.
Coach, to your right again, against the wall.
Okay.
Matt Connolly with the State Newspaper. What are you going to need from Seventh Woods and Jalik Felton with Joel out, and do you feel like those guys are ready to step up?
Well, it remains to be seen if they're ready. Yesterday in practice, we gave Seventh a chance. We gave Jalik a chance, and we also gave Theo a chance. So don't be surprised if Theo runs around out there as a point guard a little bit. He's the best playmaker on our team, and whether or not he can do that with the ball in his hands as often as a point guard remains to be seen. But it doesn't make any difference whether they can or not. They have to. That's who we have.
Coach, to your left, the camera there right in the middle.
Okay.
Coach, Mike Lissette from WDRB in Louisville. I've asked a couple of coaches this already, but I'll ask you, how strange is it going to be playing Louisville this year and not seeing Rick Pitino there on the sidelines?
It'll be really strange. The only what, have you been there 17 years? That's a long time at any place as a coach. So Rick did such a magnificent job, and you watch Louisville play, it would fit his personality and the great things that he did. And so it'll be very much different. And David Padgett, I recruited David when I was coaching at Kansas, and he's such a great young man. And he's got some big shoes to fill and a big job to do. But Rick left some foundation there that I think David will benefit from, and taught him some great things that I think David will benefit from.
Coach, last question from the podium here. 2 years ago, you borrowed this chair to sit up at the podium. How are you feeling these days? You good to go?
2 years ago was the worst year I've ever had in coaching. I mean, we made it to the national championship game, but this is my 45th year as a coach. The first 42 years, I guess it was, I never sat down on a basketball court a single time my entire life. The 43rd year, I had to sit down about every 10 or 15 minutes because my knees were hurting quite a bit. Last year, I didn't have to sit down a single time. It's a lot more fun that way, and needless to say, I'm glad I don't have to have a chair every time I turn around.
Coach, thanks a lot. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
Folks, Virginia's doing